and welcome to Beyond Reproach. This is Tux Lerzel.
And Stephanie Domingo.
I come to you from Detroit, Michigan, where I'm recording on land belonging to the Ojibwe, Ottawa, Potawatomi, and Wyandot nations.
And I come to you from North Canton, Ohio, where I am recording on land belonging to the Kaskaskia Nation.
hmm These are all some of many nations out there in the world doing their thing, and we would like to acknowledge that.
Hell yeah.
Beyond Reproach is the show about scandals and scandalousness in American politics and government. But today, this is a mini, and we're doing whatever the hell we want today.
Yes.
You can't stop us.
Can't stop, won't stop.
Nope. I'd like to see you try.
Seriously. Try and fail. Try and fail, you mean? Yes.
Fuck around and find out.
Yes. The finding out. Delicious.
Oh, it's delicious.
For others, not for me.
Yes.
A caveat. Yeah. When I find out, it's a tragedy.
No. Yeah. When others find out at your expense, though, that's chef's kiss.
Yeah. Incredible. Yeah. So this mini is a continuation of the story that I did last week, the Boston Tea Party. I talked about how that was a really revolutionary event, but just not in the ways that we are led to believe at all. I think it's pretty wild that kids are still being taught lies.
It's unbelievable, but we shouldn't be surprised that children are being taught lies.
We all have Al-Gore's internet, though. We've had it for decades.
Yeah, we all know about the Al-Gore-ithm.
But don't you think if you were a kid, you would just be Googling shit? Like, it would take me hearing one teacher's lie for me to just be Googling everything all the time.
Fact checking all of your teachers. Oh my God. I hope those kids are out there.
I don't know. I'm sure that they are. They definitely are.
I hope those kids are out there making their history teachers' lives a living hell.
Yeah.
But it's not the history teacher's fault either that the textbooks and the curriculum is garbage.
It's not like they can just make up their own lesson. There's a curriculum and it's lies.
Exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, I think that kids are pretty savvy, and I'm just envisioning like little me basically being like, actually,
totally,
you're wrong. In this mini, I want to dive a little bit deeper into the Sons of Liberty and their role in fanning the flames of rebellion.
Yes.
The Boston Tea Party was their event. And I want to talk a little bit more about some of the men involved, and like what were the downstream consequences. Granted, this is going to be an overview. This is a mini-sode. I'm not going too deep, but they were the group that staged the demonstration. And I know that I learned that these men were kind of like everyday patriots, just regular folks who stood up to the British and demanded representation with their taxation. And they really did that. However, they were not regular folks. That is a fantasy. So let's get into it. The Sons of Liberty, who were they and why should we care?
When I was a kid at school learning the golden rule, teacher often used to say, if you don't tell a lie, there's not a reason why you can't be like Washington someday. How could Washington be a married man and never tell a lie?
A loosely organized, sometimes violent, sometimes very, very violent political organization that was active in the colonies, in all 13 colonies eventually. They were founded to advance the rights of colonists and to fight against taxation by the British. This is kind of a lot of words to say that they were a political gang. And you will learn very quickly how gang-like they were. So they played a major role in most colonies battling the Stamp Act of 1765. I mentioned this in passing last week that the Stamp Act was what really set it off. They were not having this taxation thing. It's definitely worth a whole episode, so I'm really gonna be glossing over the finer details of it.
Okay.
But what you need to know is that this group, this Stamp Act, I mean, instead of levying a duty on trade goods, the Stamp Act imposed the first direct tax on colonists.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Huh.
Specifically, the act required that starting in the fall of 1765, all legal documents, printed materials, and basically anything with that involved paper needed to bear a stamp tax. And this tax was provided by these commissioned distributors, these agents of the crown, basically. They would
Mhm.
collect this tax in exchange for this stamp that needed to be on all paper goods. And people lost it. This law
Yeah, I
applied
mean,
to
fuck that.
right?
Yeah,
Agreed. Agreed.
yeah.
It this law, it applied to wills, to, like, banknotes, to newspapers, pamphlets, even playing cards and dice
What?
somehow, and I'm like, "You need official, like, dice? But why?" So this one tax just it set everything off, and rightfully so. Like,
Yeah,
there's no
yeah,
reason for all of this. And to do it all at once too was really
yeah,
jarring for the colonists. So
totally, yeah.
so once the Stamp Act was passed, a secret group of wealthy, mostly smugglers, but also just local merchants, they started calling themselves the Loyal Nine. They started
Okay.
meeting in secret. I'm like, "Wow, you guys are so cute with your little names." They started meeting in secret, and they were the precursors to the Sons of Liberty. They gathered crowds. They had this meeting place in Boston. Apparently, there was a tree that they just started calling the Liberty Tree, and I'm
Sure.
like, "Y'all are
To the
corny."
lemon tree.
Yeah, basically, yes. So this loyal 9, they started organizing people at this tree. Every week or every few weeks, like, the crowd gets larger and larger, and they're just everyone's gathering by this tree and basically talking shit about this Stamp Act. They're just like, "Can you believe it? Like, we need to do something."
Yeah,
So, the Loyal 9, they decided that they're kind of gonna be like the hype men, the kind of like agitators. They were trying to push the
okay, yeah,
crowd to do more than just, talk about it. They wanted them to be about it.
yeah,
So,
okay.
at the encouragement of these loyal 9, who I'll get into later, but I'll just say now that they were, like, wealthy people. So, like, if
Mhm.
the rich people in town are telling you to, like, "Let's fuck up shit," like, you're gonna fuck up shit because who's gonna stop you?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird because, like, I am all for, "Fuck this tax is ridiculous, we shouldn't be paying
It's
this," but
stupid.
also the
Yeah.
fact that it's the rich people are the ones trying to organize against it makes
Yeah.
me nervous and skeptical.
As you should be. So,
Yeah.
they basically encouraged a riot, and this
Mhm.
riot went throughout the streets of Boston. They targeted taxable goods, which made sense, but more
Mhm.
importantly, they targeted tax collectors, which put many colonial officials at risk from being tarred and feathered or even killed by this mob.
Yeah, we've seen this before.
Yeah. I don't know if you know, I learned this just through my research. Tarring and feathering used to be just like an act that was kind of confined to like sailors. Like this was something that would happen at high sea with like
Okay.
mutinies. But the loyal the loyal 9 and the Sons of Liberty, they're the ones who popularized tarring and feathering in the colonies.
Wow,
And
okay.
they started with these officials of the crown who were pushing
Yeah,
for the Stamp Act.
trendsetters.
Yeah. Yes, they were ahead of their time.
Uh-huh.
So they would tar and feather these British people, these British agents, and while these agents were incapacitated, they would go to their homes and rob them. And oftentimes they would burn their homes to the ground.
Wow, yeah.
In one case, this is from Wikipedia. So there were these Boston rioters who raided the home of the lieutenant governor, a man named Thomas Hutchinson, and they stole an estimated 250,000 pounds worth of his possessions.
Wow.
Yeah. So this is not just the Loyal Nine. This is the crowd that they inspired. It was
Yeah,
just,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it was like an atmosphere of just, let's just burn everything. Let's take everything. Let's, fuck these
Mhm.
people trying to tax our dice. Get the fuck out of here. So the Loyal Nine, they recruited some powerful people in publishing because they wanted to get their word out. Their little Liberty Tree was not doing it, wasn't doing enough. So they started recruiting people from the Boston Gazette, and they began printing their pamphlets. And yeah.
But were they stamped?
No, they weren't. They weren't. Yes, they weren't stamped. It was like a double fuck you.
Yeah.
So this is how their message spread from Boston, where the Sons of Liberty or the Loyal Nine started. It spread out from Boston and was everywhere in a few months. So eventually the Loyal Nine, they began signing their papers that were being printed by the Boston Gazette as the Sons of Liberty instead of the Loyal Nine. There was a lot of them now, so
Okay, yeah.
they
More than 9
decided
of
that
them.
they decided they were going to like rebrand their, resistance gang.
Sure.
And by doing this, they kind of came out of the shadows. They were never really, really in the shadows. People knew who they were, but now they were being more bold, more open. They were doing things in broad daylight. Sometimes they had like it seemed like a parade once, like kind of through the town, being like, "This is who we are. What you gonna do about it?" type of thing. So they're feeling a little bolder with this new name. So the group in Boston was originally organized by Samuel Adams, and
Okay.
it quickly snowballed into a much larger network of just general resistance to the British Crown. So what do you
Okay.
know about Samuel Adams?
Beer.
Yes. Okay.
I
That's what most people know. Yeah.
yeah.
People are like, "Oh, he was a brewer.
Y
He was a dude. He liked
yes.
beer."
Uh-huh.
Um, he inherited his father's brewery, and
Generational wealth.
generational wealth. Yeah. So his father was a merchant and a local politician. So he's not a man of the people at all. He like most of the Sons of Liberty were men of influence. People love a rags to riches tale, especially Americans. I
Mhm.
think we're very susceptible to that narrative. We want to believe it's so bad.
We just pretend that there were rags involved when it was really just riches to riches.
Yeah, riches to more riches.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, that doesn't inspire confidence or like
Yeah.
inspire, I don't know, industry to be like riches to more riches. So we have to
Yeah.
invent some rags. So the Boston chapter was a who's who of power players. People were mostly smugglers, mostly distillers, and like some lawyers and doctors kind of mixed in. Of course, there were financiers because you
Uh-huh.
gotta
The
have your
finance
money,
bros were
people.
there.
Finance bros were there, being ugh, being themselves. These people, they were the ones who had the biggest stakes in keeping the power that they had. They didn't want any sort of change, even though their riches would be, yes, it would be taxed, but like they would still be rich in the grand scheme
Sure.
of
Yeah.
things. Like
Yeah.
today,
Uh-huh.
they would survive attacks. These men, of all of the
Yeah.
men involved, could weather attacks.
Mhm.
So we have this fable that these men were just like hooligans, that they just were so called through their patriotism to rise up against the British, and that's
Yeah.
kind of not true. They were thugs, but they weren't really hooligans. So I feel like now is time for a little break.
All right. Yeah. Need to soak this all in before we go further.
Yeah.
Well, hello there. Do you wish your high school history course had more drinking, more swearing, and more ladies?
Well, do we have the show for you? Herstory on the Rocks is a long-form podcast talking about good women, bad women, fictional women, and non-fictional women from all times and places.
Basically, each week we pair two women who we research with a themed signature cocktail.
You won't be sorry you listened to our latest episode.
Available everywhere you listen to podcasts.
Cheers!
Okay. And we're back.
Mm-hmm.
So, with the coordination of various Sons of Liberty chapters, the Stamp Act was repealed within a year.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. Like, that's how quickly things got out of hand, and the British were like, okay, fine.
Yeah. Wow. All right.
We don't need to tax your playing cards, and this is too much. Like, that's how much chaos that they caused in various cities and within the colonies.
All right.
So Britain,
good for them.
I think again, we can learn history. Like, this is a good story. Like, there's a reason why they rose up. But
yes,
I feel like it's helpful to be honest about, who was really pushing for it, like the hardest. Mm-hmm. This was a big victory for the Sons of Liberty. However, it came at a price. The British Parliament, they passed an act called the Declaratory Act when they repealed the Stamp Act. This act wasn't really a law. It was more like a threat.
Okay.
Yeah, the act stated that the British king and the parliament have the power to enact any and all legislation onto the colonies, but they're just not going to do it right now. But like, they can do it at any moment, kind of thing.
Oh,
and it's like,
okay.
Yeah, they're basically saying that, okay, we repealed this act, but like, this is not for you to think that you won't be taxed in the future.
Sure.
And they were quickly taxed. And
shocking.
Right? So the fact that this act was passed and like other acts would follow where they would, be changing the tax structure without the input from the colonies, it reinforced their no taxation without representation mantra, and it only made the movement stronger.
Sure. Yeah.
So despite the revolutionary and patriotic sentiments in the colonies, Britain still needed that money. They were coming out of their First World War, and like I said in the last episode, they were looking at the colonies like a bank. Like, they needed money. They had a lot of troops in the colonies maintaining order, but also protecting them from the native people. So they needed coin.
Yeah.
So they passed the Townshend Acts, which I did mention last week. And this was the act that taxed like lead, paint, glass, like all sorts of things, and tea. And additionally, this act, it functioned as a search warrant. There was like a provision in it that said, hey, we can come into your home and look for smuggled goods, because they started to get hip. Well, I guess it wasn't really a secret, but they started to get more wise on the fact that there was a lot of smuggling going on.
Yeah.
There was a lot of people making money and not being taxed on that money. So this act allowed for agents of the crown to come into a private home and just poke about, being like, where'd you get that tea? There's no stamp on it. And this, again, further bolstered their cause. They're just like, now you're going to come into my house? Like, no, we're not doing this. So,
fuck out of here.
Yeah, I mean, they're going really far right now. I mean, they were going far before, but like, fuck all of this. Fuck all the way off. No.
Yeah.
So these smugglers, they were pissed. They were big mad. Eventually, the Sons of Liberty and a Sons of Liberty member and fellow smuggler, John Hancock. He
Ooh,
his house
I've
was
heard of him.
raided. Yeah. He had that big old Trump signature.
Uh-huh.
He had a Sharpie back then.
Yes.
Oh my god, did you see that DeSantis? So, for people who don't know, DeSantis is literally just trying to be Trump. Like, he's
Uh-huh.
copying his hand movement, and now he's signing things with Sharpies.
Oh, jeez Louise. Okay.
Sir, be yourself.
I
Stop being such a
mean,
follower.
yeah.
You're a
He
grown man.
Yeah, I've seen all the, like, videos of him during speeches doing all of Trump's hand gestures and stuff. It's
Have you
like
seen the side-by-side videos of the two of them
yes.
next? Oh,
Yes.
so
It's
good.
so it's good and also terrifying because he clearly, like, thinks that this is what it takes to get idiots
Yeah.
behind him.
Yeah. That's true. I was just like, look, in my head, I'm just like, look what a copier he is. Like, sir, you're grown. You don't need to like copy the popular bully.
I
But
mean,
apparently he thinks yeah.
it works.
Yeah, it does work. But so yeah, John Hancock is his house is raided. They find all of his shit. He's in trouble because
Yeah.
it's clear what he's doing. So he
Wow, okay.
turned to a fellow Sons of Liberty member and prominent attorney, John Adams, future
Mhm.
president John Adams. He's the cousin of Sam Adams. Yeah, just nepotism.
I did not know that.
Yeah. I think first cousin, I believe.
Wow, okay. You learn
So,
something new every day.
yeah, learn something every new.
Yeah. I was
So
just thinking that, but I was gonna say it.
So Adams, he successfully defended Hancock despite all of the mountains of evidence he gets off. But smuggling is becoming increasingly risky and people are getting nervous. So under
Okay.
the Sons of Liberty, the colonists in Boston, they organize a boycott of all British goods sold
Wow,
in
okay.
that colony, in that city, I mean. So Sam Adams, he's the one really, really pushing this. He's also a smuggler, so it helps his bottom line to be like,
Mhm.
don't buy from the British, buy from me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
This catches on and it spreads from Boston to other parts of Massachusetts and then, further out into the colonies. Anyone who dared to sell British goods risk having their stores completely vandalized or destroyed. They were known to tar and feather just people owning businesses, people who claimed to be agents of the crown. They basically said that anyone who wasn't down with them was like an agent of the crown, which
Sure, yeah.
maybe these people just
That's
don't like the fact that you're breaking shit.
yeah.
And they like don't want to be involved.
Yeah, that's not cool to, like, shop owners, they need to survive, they need a way to make money on their own. So you can't be, like, blaming them for selling things legally.
Yeah. Anyone who went against their like mob mentality like could just get it basically.
Yeah.
So
Oof.
they were just threatening people, creating this culture of like everyone was kind of scared.
Sure,
Um
yeah.
and this resulted in a lot of just unrest in Boston because people who aren't with this gang are going to the British officials and being like, "Hey, like, can you do something? Like, they're kind of threatening me. Like, I'm afraid they're going to come into my house, not just my
Yeah.
store, and like take all my shit because this is what they're doing." So there are these British troops in Boston. They're supposed to just be standing around, not
Mhm.
causing any trouble, just keeping an eye on things, literally minding the peace was their role. And this failed. On the night of March 5th, 1770, there were 8 British soldiers who were just guarding this custom house in Boston. They opened fire on a group of angry colonists that were in their area. No one really knows why or like what happened, if they were shooting at them or there were rocks. Like it seems like it
Gee.
happened so fast.
Yeah.
And when the smoke cleared, 5 colonists were dead,
Oh my
and
god.
another 6 were really badly wounded.
Mm.
No one, not even the British soldiers, could recall how the shooting started in the first place or if there was an order given. It seems like maybe one person started shooting for whatever reason and the rest kind of followed suit.
Okay.
And this was a tragedy. There
Yeah.
was a local silversmith and engraver who was also a member of the Sons of Liberty. His name is Paul Revere. He used this as a rallying cry. He called this a massacre. He wasn't the only one calling it a massacre, but it was kind of the perfect propaganda to ride around with.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
because he was an engraver, he depicted this event in whatever metal he was using, and he
Hmm.
rode around with this image telling the tale, and he really helped to stoke patriotic feelings of, general anti-British sentiments as well, feelings of being like under threat, the underdog against this big empire. And soon news spread around the colonies, and according to papers, that this was an act of barbarism. This was a thing that Paul Revere himself would say when he was on his tour, and the rest was history. People,
Yeah.
this was a big moment in U.S. history, and it all came about
Yeah.
because of the Sons of Liberty.
Wow. Just a bunch of rich dudes.
Yeah. I mean, they had the mob as well, but yeah, they
Sure.
were doing they had the puppet hands for sure.
Yes, exactly. They were pulling the strings,
Yeah.
just trying to get richer. Like, no, don't pay England, pay me.
Yeah, kind of, yeah. Yeah, because most of them were smugglers.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
most of them were making money in the colonies, and there's nothing wrong with making money, but it's just, like, lying and saying that you're, like, a man of the people when
Uh-huh.
you're getting the money from the people.
Exactly. Well, that's literally the foundation of this country.
Yeah. Yep.
Look, there's a few men of the people out there that I can think of
Yeah.
that have never been even don't even want to be close to the people.
No. No, they would be really upset if they were close
Yeah.
to a solitary people.
Yeah. Wow, that's wild. This whole I mean, it just keeps there's like new layers to it. It's like a really horrible onion that's like,
Yeah, and there's just, like,
like
so many
it's a
people
rotten onion.
is definitely rotten onion, but there's, like, so many power players are involved so early, like, even
Mhm.
before the Declaration of Independence, we have Hancock over here. Also,
Mhm.
Patrick Henry, the "Give
Oh,
me
the one
liberty
who
or
locked
give
up
me death."
his
Yes,
yeah, and
he's
locked
the
up his
Sons of
wife in the
Liberty as
basement.
well.
Of course he is, yeah.
Yeah.
That's that story, an oldie but a goodie. That's our first Halloween episode, right?
Yes, it was an episode where that people loved, and I was yeah. I got a
You
lecture
hated
for
it? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I mean, I just thought it was really really kind of
Silly.
stupid. Yeah, silly. Silly is a better word. Yeah.
Yes.
Tim is like, "Don't say the episode that you're currently recording is stupid." I'm like, "Okay. Yes, Tim." But
But
it
I
was just yeah,
wanna.
it was the ghosts, air quotes, around,
Yes.
all this ghastly evidence just being in a basement.
Yeah.
It tickled me,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Well, I don't know. I've learned a lot about our founding fathers today and who they were. Just a bunch of rich dudes who didn't like paying taxes.
Yep. Tale as old as time.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, we're taught that these men are just like regular Joes, just
Mhm.
trying to make a living.
But also sort of like superheroes at the same time, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
that's true. Yeah, they're definitely
yeah,
mythologized for sure.
yeah, yeah. Well, I haven't even been drinking. I've just been drinking water today because I'm tired. It's been a long day. It's the end
I
of the day
forgive
for
you.
us. You got some wine? Is it nearing emptyhood?
Yeah, it is almost empty. I'm drinking it slowly because I've had very
Okay.
little water today, but I'm already
Sure.
like
Yeah.
feeling it.
Uh-huh. All right. Well, we're done either way. We're
Yeah.
finishing it up. So yeah, thank you guys so much for listening to Beyond Reproach, the Minisode. This has been
Yeah.
Tux Lurzel.
And Stephanie Domingo.
Thank you to our audio editor, Dev. We could not do this without you.
We couldn't.
All right, guys. Yeah. All right. Thanks so much. Goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Beyond Reproach. Please note that we are not historians. We're just a couple of drunks who never shut up and love history. A full list of all source information can be found in the show notes on our website. Please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. Written reviews are especially important. If you like us, please do one of two things. Leave us a written review on Apple Podcasts or send this episode to a friend, family member, or someone who you think would be into it. Don't forget to follow us on social media and make sure you follow us on Instagram because we post our cocktail recipes the Thursday before each full episode. Please drink along with us if you are not driving. We also have a shop on beyondreproachpod.com. Get your merch, brand yourselves. And we also have exclusive content on Patreon where you can directly support the production of our show.